talk a little bit about, we've talked about recruiting for clinical trials and other things, but I think, Rachel, what are your opinion? You're at the top level of the VA. Is there push, or is there an open door to talk about marketing and communications? The VA, in a lot of facilities and with a lot of people in the United States still, and even with vets, I mean, you have 9 million that are registered, 6 million getting care, but there's 19 million veterans in the United States. And so is the VA concerned about marketing the good care that they provide? I mean, we tell them all that you can't get better care for prostate cancer than in the VA. You can't get access to it. We know oncologists that are in both academic centers and not, that are referring their patients or transferring them over to the VA because then they don't have to deal with the insurance issues and all the other kind of stuff. So are there efforts, or is there a concern at the top of the VA, in your opinion, about the marketing and about the perception of the VA brand?
Well, certainly, and I can't speak for the leadership of the VA, but it's certainly something that we focus on in research, and just a number of studies are published out there. And again, those scientific journals are probably not where the veterans are looking when they're thinking about where do I get my clinical care, but comparing VA care to community care across just a wide range of subjects and areas. And the fact of the matter is, VA provides excellent care.
Yeah.
So any effort, any collaborations we can have to help get the word out would be important, not to burnish the VA brand. I'm very happy working in the VA, and I'm proud to be part of VA. I do happen to read those journal articles.
Yeah, right.
But because that too can save lives, if people can understand that they'll come into VA and they will be seen, for example, out in LA by somebody who also is a professor at UCLA and a world-renowned expert in prostate cancer, that's going to be life-saving information for them. So in addition to working with organizations like yours to get the word out, and with industry partners to help get the word out, I'd like to give a shout out to the public affairs officers at every VA facility. They play a critical role in expanding knowledge at their local sites. And so as a central research office, we are doing more to reach out to those public affairs officers across the country so that they incorporate information about clinical trials in their communications offerings.
Yeah, I think that's critical. That, I mean, even in clinical trials, I think we really have to look at other marketing aspects to get the things out there. And I mean, I know that you're busy. That's part of your job, though, is recruit. Are they giving you sort of free reins to advertise or to go out and search for things, or I mean, or do you need some help?
Well, I wouldn't turn help down, but free rein, it's hard to use that because we're so governed by the IRB as far as what we can put out there and what we can give to the patient. So I guess we don't have full free rein in that regard, and I guess that is kind of a constraint of ours. We have to operate based on, you know, what we're governed by, or governed with by the IRB. So that can have its challenges because sometimes we might miss opportunities that would, you know, maybe draw in a bigger crowd or something because we don't have, you know, IRB approval to present this information. And also, you know, I guess from just what I see as a study coordinator and just as a person who knows veterans, even if they are aware of the care that the VA provides, they don't always know about the clinical trials, or if they know about them, they don't understand what they entail or if they can feasibly take part in it. So I think more education and information should be given to, you know, veterans, just so they're aware of what's even out there and how it could benefit them. And, you know, and just be educated more as to what that entails, because, you know, there is also kind of a disdain when it comes to clinical trials for some. So it takes a little bit more encouragement and more education to even get them interested. And that's after they know that it even exists. So.
Well, I mean, you'll hear this as sit in the infusion room or whatever, the guys will say they're in a clinical trial, they're just another guinea pig, right? Or they get that impression that
Yes.
it's a trial as you're trying something on a guy, right? You don't know what's going to happen, whereas 99% of the time, they know exactly what's going to happen. You're probably getting a better care than you would get anywhere else. You're going to get that advanced care and that sort of stuff. So I think if you could take the word trial out and make it a clinical study or
Yeah.
something like that, I mean, I think we'd get a better recruitment out of the whole thing, right? Because it's not typically a trial. I mean, you're going to try it and look for endpoints and that kind of stuff, but that's for the doctors to worry about, right? I mean, you're going to get all sorts of advanced care. I mean, one of the big ones now that's out, Pluvicto, I'll mention, now a Novartis drug for late stage. It's the radioligand issue that they inject you with the PSMA, but it's got the lutetium-177 on it. It's for late stage cancer guys, for prostate cancer guys, and we know about it because we're sort of in the know of prostate cancer, and we're flying guys out to get the treatment before it was available to everybody. We're flying people out to LA typically is where we would work, and also at Duke as well. Mike would take some of the patients as well. But it's funny that they just don't know about it. I mean, people, even the other VAs aren't knowing about it. And I think something from both the research from your office and also maybe a lesson learned from the trials is we've got to be better at marketing or at educating not only the physicians and the staff, but also the patient community as well. And we have to find tools that we can work with you to actually help educate those things. And I mean, with all the new stuff, the AI coming on board and all these other things happening, I mean, what are some ideas? I mean, can we get out of the box and think about some of these ideas to help educate people? I mean, a question to you is like, what are you doing in advanced research to help publicize that people know about all these trials that you're investing in and that kind of stuff? I mean, are you publicizing those, or do you have a publication office?
Yes, so communication, in the traditional sense, you might see in a research communication office, I said, we published something in the New England Journal of Medicine, or we published something in Nature Genetics, and thank goodness we have researchers who are doing wonderfully and publishing in those amazing journals. I think our job as a communications office embedded within this, as a research communications group embedded within this system, is also to communicate to the veterans themselves, and that is a new function that we are just even as we speak beginning to embrace. So thank you for highlighting that. That's something that also came up when we spoke to groups interested in women's cancer. So I'm hearing it loud and clear.
Well, no, it's good. I think it's a failing, I think, of the system, because I think the system, it's not really a failing, but the system is so integrated into itself, trying to solve problems and solve this patient and that patient's cancer, that you forget about, we have to educate all those guys out there that may have it that don't know they have it yet, right? That need to be doing the early screening. And so now we have a study that says, we get cancers earlier, right? So why are we now not changing we need to change our protocols inside the VA to screen guys earlier, and then educating them on what a screen is. And that's part of it as well, is some of the basics. And I think if we had to make an input to the development of this, back to the legislation and the clinical pathway, is we've seen some of the first iterations of it out. We all feel that it ought to have a little bit of more, our organization as a whole feels it ought to have more emphasis in it, not on all the late stage stuff, but the early stage, or the screening and the education and new screening technologies. Why are we not looking for doing research on on exosome screening, or urinalysis screening, or all these other kind of technologies that are available, and we're all just living with PSA? I mean, we're the only cancer out there that only has a blood test that's 70% accurate, right? Why? It's because we don't make enough noise about it. We don't educate, the challenges around it. And I think that, this is something from one of our mantras around here is know your number, right? Or asking people, what's your number? And that is your PSA number, because it's the only thing that we have right now. And I think that, the VA is a perfect example. We have this entire population of people, they all ought to know what their PSA is. And I guarantee you that very few do. And I think it's something that we need to take on, and it's sort of another communication issue. And I guess my question to you would be, from a research perspective, are you guys doing anything on the way up front side of patient population, of monitoring when they come into the VA to look at screening and what disease states they might have? Is that ongoing or not, or do we need to start another project?
Well, I think, you raise an important issue, both with the aviator study as well as talk about the how sort of unsatisfactory PSA is as a test. And if you go online and look for guidance about PSA, it can be certainly very confusing, and there are mixed messages, except for those at the very highest risk categories. And so I do think that's an area where we need to do additional work. One place that I wonder if there will be an intersection is that we are working with the National Cancer Institute under part of the Cancer Moonshot for multi-cancer early detection. Of course, that's not specifically focused on prostate cancer, but in general, it's looking at less invasive or non-invasive screens for cancer. And so that will be one area that I'll go back to my office and ask whether prostate cancer is in that umbrella. Or also, please feel free to follow up with me to say, what does your portfolio look like in terms of studies on screening? As I said, I think we are positioned better than any other organization to advance science in this area. The question is not just about the will to do it, it's about resources. So if we get legislation that says, Rachel, move this area of science forward, but our budget doesn't increase, that means by necessity making trade-offs with where we're going to put our dollars to advance knowledge to improve veterans' health. Yeah, and
that's a topic we want to bring up with you as well, or to throw on the table, is that as a patient advocacy organization, one of our roles is walking the halls of Congress and talking about things that benefit patients. And I know that there's other organizations out there, some that support CDMRP, the congressionally directed, whatever it is, military, CDMRPs, correct, Chris? Congressionally directed military
research program?
RP.
That's a good guess.
Together
military
we might
programs,
do this.
and then it's RFP. But anyway, that program, I'll find out the name of it. But anyway, but they have a patient advocacy organization that helps stomp the halls and raise a lot of money for those guys, or to keep their budget in line on every 2 years, right? So same thing with the VA. I don't think there's anybody out there politicking for you guys, or to push these budget issues on the research on early detection for prostate cancer, or for other things out there, for other research projects. And I don't know, are you working for those from a research perspective? Are you working with other advocacy organizations on pushing through trials or other things, or other research projects that you need a patient's voice in Congress to help raise that money or keep it in place?
So patients' voices are very powerful in every setting, including in Congress. I will also point out that there is an organization called the Friends of VA Research that includes representatives like the AAMC and the American Thoracic Society, that helps to champion the importance of investments in VA research. Now, I have no illusions that our research budget should be anywhere as large as, let's say, the DoD or the NIH, because they are extramural funding agencies. We fund research that happens within VA, and I'm proud that our researchers also successfully compete for NIH and DoD dollars, among other types of dollars. But I hope that over the last several years, we've been able to show that we handle our money very responsibly, that we deliver outcomes that are meaningful to veterans and the nation, and that will be recognized as an integral part of the not just veteran ecosystem, but national health ecosystem in the country. And that we would be, of course, it would be my dream that we'd be resourced to, at large scale, inform clinical practice guidelines that would benefit the country.
Absolutely. That's great. Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to keep going a couple more. Alicia, in the Starport trial, do you know if the patients or the trial participants, are they being screened for their genomic and somatic DNAs?
Yes, they are, both actually.
Okay, and so what are the doctors, or what's your opinion? I mean, are patients asking for the genetic counseling, or are you ensuring that they get the counseling after their screening?
That's actually done in-house. It's done, well, excuse me, it's done within the VA, but another entity. And normally, they provide some of the genetic counseling because they understand it better. But I mean, we do explain to them exactly what's entailed with the testing, what they can expect. And if they do have follow-up questions, our LSI is available, or like I said, we can point them to the testing facility if they have more specific or pointed questions. I personally haven't had any that required that level of follow-up, but it is there, and we make sure that it's there and that they know that it's there, because it is also another separate consent required for that kind of testing. So, yeah, we do make sure that there are resources in place if there are required follow-up questions.
And do you know if are the physicians like Abby and everybody, are they looking at some of the mutations and things like that, and then they'll alter their treatments or whatever based on those?
That's exactly what we do and why we do it, basically, yes, to gain insights and knowledge on, what might best suit or treat a particular cancer type. So yes, it's very important, and we do document everything. We document that data, and they, I guess, basically make decisions on treatment based on what that shows.
Sure.
Those results show.
No, it's great, and I know it's a big. I think there's a lot of research that's ongoing with the whole genomic and somatic sequencing, and that's getting better and better, and it's always going up. And I think that all of industry and veterans need to know that if you're diagnosed with prostate cancer in the VA, you're eligible you should be screened. You're supposed to have both a genomic and a somatic screening done if they have the tissue available. And I think it's, you probably know I don't know how many research projects are ongoing around the DNA sequencing side of things, but it's fairly significant. And are you seeing a lot of participation? Is there a lot of interest in those things?
Well, so there are a couple of ways we're approaching genomics from the VA research side. One thing we have had for some time is the Million Veteran Program, which predates my joining the VA. And this year, we think we will hit our goal of reaching 1 million veterans enrolled, which is a very exciting milestone to hit. Many of those veterans, unfortunately, are veterans who have been impacted by cancer. So there you have a place that is a treasure trove of information of people who've stepped up to participate in research to find out information about how genetics impacts disease. Now, on the other side, as Alicia was saying, for clinical trials that are driven by genetic markers, that is really vastly enabled by the fact that the National Oncology Program Office does have this centralized resource to get the genetic testing done across the VA, no matter where a veteran may live. And once you get that done, that opens the door to participate in clinical trials that are driven by those biomarkers. So it really is a system that by getting that testing done, it opens up a lot of doors, both on the clinical side and on the research side.
Yeah. Now, I'll echo that from both of you. My own experience going through there, I'm a mutation BRCA2 positive, and so I've had all of that done, and it's been it's just amazing the outreach from the VA. I mean, I think I'm lucky because of my oncologist, but they've helped with educating of my family as well, my daughter and everything else of, what does that mean? I mean, how does that go? And there are resources available, and most vets don't understand it, that those resources are not just for you, but also for your family as well. And so, she's in Orlando. She qualifies, so she gets counseled from the, she's not a vet, works at, Blue Origin, but she's not a vet, but she goes in there and they tell her all about the genetics around it and that sort of thing. So it's great. I mean, I think those are programs that don't get enough word, and hopefully our roundtables will open that up, and we'll get some more support around those programs, because it's the leading edge of technology. It's where science and it's where medicine is going. And I mean, the type of treatments you get are just, if we can get this precision oncology down to actually target what we're giving each person based on what their genomics and genetics are, and curing those cancers, that's a huge milestone that we can help with. And I think you're right. The VA is that central place in the country right now, and we need to put more emphasis on working with the VA. And I hope that researchers at all of the industry panels understand that it's not a closed door. If you know how to get in, or you can reach out, call me, I'll get us in. Or all of us at VPCa, all of our guys across the country, all have good relationships with the physicians, some of the best ones. Dr. Kelly, for example, I mean, Tony Minter here's was treated at Duke and knows all of the team there. UCLA, one of the premier places for prostate cancer. I mean, that's where I go. Hines here, I mean, in Chicago these are places where they're affiliated with academic centers and just really pushing the technology. And I think we'd love to see industry get more engaged in that whole thing, in the development of these drugs and the new treatment centers. So I guess in closing, I'd ask you from a prostate cancer perspective or a research perspective, where do you see us, Rachel, where do you see the VA going in the future, in the near future? And we know the long-term goals is to cure this disease so that we can put everybody out of business, but where do you see us near term, and what can we do to work together to facilitate the growth in the program?
Well, my major focus has been transforming the sites that conduct research, and there are about 100 of them that formally conduct research, into an integrated system, so that we can go through those cycles of learning faster. And really the highest compliment that I think Matt Rettig has paid to me is he's talked about the VA research process as being nimble, which is not necessarily an adjective that many people associate with the VA, but I want us to be nimble, because then we can earn the trust not only of the veterans, but of the industry partners who might like to place their trials in a place where they'll be readily available to veterans. And so that's my focus, is speeding up cycles of learning, earning trust, and delivering these results through research.
Thank you for that. Alicia, I'll give you a chance to give a plug for Starport, seriously, because we'll get this out. And I mean, our social media outreaches and our advertising things are really picking up quite a bit with the help of industry and other veterans and that sort of thing. And we're seeing a lot of traction right now. So I think it's important to learn about Starport. I mean, I know the details of it around it. I think I'm actually in it. But anyway, but I think, please give a pitch for Starport and what it is and what we're trying to do. I mean, if you're trying to recruit people, let's use the mechanisms here to get that out.
Yeah, well, we'd like to, make a big as dent as possible in this recurrent prostate cancer disposition. So at Starport, our goal is to actively recruit eligible participants. So we want to actively continue to screen. We want to actively liaise with other clinicians and other departments. We want to get the information out there. We want to educate people. One thing, that kind of came to mind when we were talking about marketing and communication, and we were speaking about educating people, I think there's an opportunity for the VA to kind of create an approach that educates potential participants on what a clinical trial entails, just the basics. Because sometimes when you say trial, like you alluded to, I mean, people run in the other direction because they're just unsure of what it entails. So I think even if they're round tables or town halls, whatever we can do to kind of, I guess, make the clinical trial participation route more straightforward, I think would be beneficial. So, you know, just trying to think of ways to just educate our veterans on what a clinical trial is, how it, you know, can help them, and even give examples of other clinical trials, maybe similar clinical trials and their outcomes and how it's helped. I just think that level of engagement with veterans would help push us, you know, towards our goal. But again, Starport, we're trying to reach as many participants as we can. We're looking to open sites that have the capabilities that are needed for this trial, the imaging capabilities, which is kind of why we have chosen the sites that we have, because we had to go with who has the capabilities to carry out the functions of the trial. But just kind of expanding, you know, our reach in that area, you know, liaising with other sites that can provide what we need in this trial, I think would help Starport. And just continuing to just educate veterans on prostate cancer in general, and, you know, what options for treatment are out there. And one thing that we do push, you know, we're very concerned with their care, whether they're participating in the trial or not. So we push that. I know I personally push that with our patients, because I want them to understand ultimately it's not about the clinical trial, it's about their care. Right. So, you know, just kind of holding that as our focus and allowing that to drive what we do every day.
And so to qualify for Starport, you have to be a veteran, you have to have a metastatic recurrence of prostate cancer. It has to be metastatic, and it has to be 5 or less metastasis. Is that right?
Yes, currently.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, we are
trying
looking
to expand it to greater than 5.
Yes,
right?
10.
Up
no
to
more
10,
than 10,
No
yes.
more than 10, okay. So that's the criteria from a patient perspective.
And to be able to commit to the visits, which are pretty unintrusive. They're every 3 months, they get labs. Every 6 months, they get labs and scans, and they do questionnaires, quality of life questionnaires. And, you know, that is basically the overview of their involvement, unless there are other caveats, you know.
Okay. Great, and you get your cancer taken care of as well.
Yes.
So,
yes,
and meet nice people like
yes,
yourself.
Yes.
So, and I think in closing, I want to say thanks to all of our sponsors, the people that put this together, from Massive Bio, who we mentioned, to the organizations like Pfizer and Janssen, ViewRay, Bayer, Macrogenetics, Novartis, are all components and are all people that are helping us out to put these roundtables together and help open up the dialogue, I think, as you mentioned, Rachel, to give us venues and opportunities to communicate about prostate cancer. It's #1 diagnosed cancer in the VA, so we should be talking about it. And guys need to go get screened and get screened early, and that's been proven now with some data out there, so now we need to follow up with all that. So I want to thank you both for your time this evening. Thank you for participating. And the next one that we're planning to do is at ASTRO in San Diego. So you'll be invited again if you want to. I know Ms. Kelly, Dr. Kelly will be there. So thank you very much, and thanks to all the sponsors. Appreciate it.